All right, welcome back to Fright Flicks. I'm Mike.
And I'm Nate.
All right, and we are back together. We did a little podcast not too long ago on writing. You can check that out. But we have mostly been a little bit busy with stuff here and there, but we are finally back with another killer theory. This time for Slasher on ChillerTV.
Yeah, a ChillerTV original program, which, correct me if I'm wrong, is slated to run for 8 episodes. So it's it's following the, let's call it the True Detective model.
Oh, it absolutely is. Why else would you pick 8 episodes? And it's one writer, one director.
One creative team throughout, which is also... back when I was a kid, when TV did this, they called it a miniseries. And they did that sometimes. Now, I think, though, they're setting the table for an ongoing, if possible.
Well, supposedly this is going to be anthology, but that's what they said about Scream. That's what they said about Scream Queens. But the fact that this was made 8 episodes, one creative team, I'm sure it was all shot at the same time.
I'm sure.
So it is going to, wrap itself up. So that's something good. Jesus Christ. At least they can't go back on us like some of those other series did. Like, oh, we're going to have a second season, so let's change the killer. MTV admitted, Jill admitted that they went back on who the killer was supposed to be once they realized they were doing a second season with everyone. They were like, well, fuck, who's it going to be now?
Right.
We were supposed to be Noah, by the way.
Okay. Makes sense.
She alluded heavily to that. But anyway, we're not talking about that. We're talking about Slasher. You were mentioning to me before we started recording that this is, the third attempt in 6 months, let alone a year,
to take a traditional slasher movie, which, it's funny, they were once so maligned, everybody came down on slasher, and now I think this is sort of indicative that they were very influential.
Absolutely they were.
On young burgeoning filmmakers. No, this is the third time we've seen a slasher come to television for an ongoing series.
Right.
And this is the first time, it appears to be, this is the first time that it's an actual straightforward classic slasher movie. And
no teenagers.
Stripped down to its barest form, though, a slasher movie is really an Agatha Christie-style whodunit with excessive violence. And you can play with that formula, and there's a lot more to it, but that's sort of what it comes down to. And, Scream was a slasher movie with teen drama.
Yeah.
Scream Queens was a slasher with meta observational self-aware humor.
Comedy.
Yeah, it was a straight up comedy. But I mean, the slasher elements were all treated, as a joke and being very self-aware.
As a slasher fan, I was happy with both of those series. We'll see how this series goes, but we'll get into that a little bit more in the review. We're talking a little bit broader here. It reminds me of some of the more grown-up slashers, like the Prowler and kind of Happy Birthday to Me. You know how it's like, it's got a darker, more severe tone to it. It's like when people are going to get fucked up in this, and that's the other thing I wanted to point out, is the last two were slasher PG-13. This is R.
Yeah, there was definitely one or two really nice gore pieces on this opening salvo from Slasher. I'll give them credit for that.
Yeah. Which also wanted to point out real quick that if you're tuning into this and this is the first thing you're watching, we're not going to go over Slasher too much because you probably may have never heard of it before. There's a primer elsewhere on the channel. Listen to that.
Sure.
Tell you
also, this isn't a recap. This is discussing the show itself. So
yeah, I got all that boring shit out of the way 2 weeks ago, so you can listen to that, catch up on everything, and so we're going right into the 2-part series premiere of 8 episodes. So
we're a quarter of the way done already, which is good. The show, I can't say it was lightning fast paced, but it had a fast enough pace.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
If this were 12 or 16 episodes, I might be worried, but it seems like a good pace for an 8-episode series.
Yeah. And especially because, as we noticed with Scream, which was the shorter with 10 episodes, Scream Queens had 12 or 13. It's hard to remember because they doubled up episodes or whatever. But 8 episodes, yeah. Not only following the Twin Peaks was 8 episodes too, by the way. That's where True Detective originally got the idea. But 8 episodes seems pretty good because there's always at least 2 filler episodes of any given series or whatever. So hopefully we cut down on all that, let alone the fact that episode 4 will be the game changer. You know, the halfway through episode.
Good.
So we're almost on our halfway. And so you said before we got started, and we're going to go into specifics, and these aren't killer theories yet. There's an index down below. But you said to me again before we started recording that you were like, well, it's the first 2 episodes, can't really do killer theories. I don't know. I might have to disagree on that one because, as you said, it's moving so fast, and it's going to hit its halfway point, and then it's going to, you know.
Right.
Not that it's going to flip itself, but I already think we could start doing killer theories.
Yeah, I mean, sure, we could. It's rolling dice, though, because it's early enough that we don't even know what game is being played yet.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. That's the fun part of it. That's what I like. And I keep waiting for a show to do this. That's why I like, and I'm going to make you pick somebody. But that's why I like to do it because it's like, how far fucking off. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, oh, wow. Like, we thought that it was just going to be a simple whodunit or whatever. But anyway, so let's get a little specific, then we'll go into the killer theories. What did you think of... We'll just do both episodes together, because how do you differentiate? So what did you think of Slasher?
Overall, I enjoyed it. Can't say that I loved it, but even if I wasn't going to do a weekly review of it, I would tune in to find out what happens next. I did have a lot of little problems with it. Most of them were the sort of problems that is slasher movie stuff where I can just bust on it.
Oh, yeah, I know what you mean.
Like, for example...
Episode 2 had a lot of it.
For example, the show... I don't know that the show is aware of what decade it takes place in. Okay. Because there are gay guys from the 80s that have cocaine-fueled orgies and mince around, and it's such a dated stereotype. Like, I'm not a politically correct guy. It bothered me. We've got... How big is the town of Waterbury in just south of Saskatoon, Canada, or wherever it's supposed to be?
It looked small. It's supposed to be small town, feels.
It's supposed to be a small town, and it is... I mean, in 2016, what small town do you know that has a thriving newspaper with like 20 employees, and they recruit a hot young reporter from the big...
Oh, no, see, now this stuff is good because this is just difference of opinion, and they mention that she built it from the ground up, and she's not sure where it's supposed to go, and so, which is just, throwing out dialogue, like, thank God they created the smoke cigarettes in space thing.
Yeah, and I understand you have to have like a central hub of knowledge, but
yeah,
my wife pointed out technology has made a central hub of knowledge virtually obsolete. And like being as a to quote Fantastic Mr. Fox, I used to kill birds. Now I'm a newspaperman. I worked in journalism for a while. Like journalism is dead.
That's what I was wondering. That's what I thought you were gonna trying to get to is like there's a charm to it, I think, but it's like.
But what decade is this? It would have been fine 10 years ago.
That's what I find charming. I have a buddy who...
And that's one of the things I liked most about the Scream series is they took that character and they made her a podcaster along the lines of Serial, which made it feel like it was happening now. Mm-hmm. And it not like 12 years ago when people thought that when anybody you knew read a goddamn newspaper.
Right, but I think you said it before we started recording, or maybe it's at the beginning of this, is you said you just said this does the slasher, but you said it does it
like a
run of the mill, I think is how you put
No,
it?
I said standard.
Standard, okay.
Like traditional.
I said classical.
Yeah, well, traditional, would be another way.
And that's what I like about is we saw the modern updates, and that's all good, and I have no problem with that. And these are small things, but yeah, personally, I like that kind of thing where it's like, yeah, just mix up day and age, and you can create your own world. Like, I mean, it says it takes, the beginning was in 1988. I think they say something about her being 27, so it takes place modern day. But anyway, yeah, these are a few smaller things,
right. And this is just personal preference. Like, I get it, and in terms of TV tropes, it's fine. No offense to the production values were good, but like you could tell from the first 5 seconds, this was something made in Canada. Everything sort of has like this somewhat vague, like mid-run X-Files look to it, where it just kind of looks dated anyway. So the newspaper thing, I guess, doesn't even really stand out any more than like, oh, wow, they have smartphones?
Yeah.
The first hour was really hot. There was a fairly substantial body count, a couple of good set pieces. Reveal of the killer.
Which, again, I thought that there were things that this did where it played the game very classically, but it would also subvert them without being like, ta-ta, we're subverting. And that's the thing is, like, unfortunately, I knew that was coming because somebody wrote it on their fucking synopsis. But I'm like, how they revealed it, I respected so much because it's like, oh, yeah, we've seen this a million times, killer kills someone. But then the police enter, and he's just sitting there without, like, they give you your killer in the very beginning. So it's like, oh, now where's this going to go? And where it goes is very interesting.
It is. That's the most interesting subplot that's going on right now, I think.
And that has become my boon indicator. Remember, I had that at the end of the Scream Queens where I was like, how they explain this kind of thing will let us know what they know about their own show. And I should have known when they failed to explain Boone and then explained it away that they were eventually going to fuck us. So that's going to be my indicator, is to see if they keep with this Hannibal Lecter thing. Because that's the best thing they got going for them.
It is.
And it's fucking fascinating, and it's great. Now, if he ends up dying or committing suicide or we all know that he's going to end up being her fucking dad. Like, let's just get to that point, you know what I mean? But whatever. And they drop that, they don't know that their best thing, they have going for them, like the Blacklist.
Right. Well, I personally feel that won't be the case, if only because they went the extra step and set up an on-screen relationship between the imprisoned killer and the religious guy.
Sure.
Who he slashed his cheek at the beginning and let him live.
Right.
So he doesn't... If he just had a relationship with our final girl, that would be one thing. But they seem to be branching him out. So hopefully he's going to be a series regular, and his fingers are going to be in a lot of pies. Cause,
I hope so. But that just... Okay. I do this on everything. I can't help it. But motherfuckers listening to our shit, man. I'm joking, but I'm not. Is that when we were watching Scream, we were reviewing Scream the TV show and True Detective at the same time. And when we were done with it, I said to you, what would be fun is to take True Detective and Scream, put them together, and that's on one of our videos, and make that. We even, did an outline, I think, before we gave up on it. But, it was an interesting idea. And then, specifically, there were a few... Oh, it was when we were saying that Randy should have been the killer at the end of season 1 and then been locked up to be the Hannibal Lecter to help.
Right.
Because that's something I'd never seen in a slasher. And then I see it in this fucking slasher.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn it. Because that's a cool idea. I mean, it makes total sense, but we've never seen it in a slasher before. Mm-hmm. So I'm all for it. I think that part's genius. Does that guy look spitting image? Like, Brad Dourif needs to go check that guy's... birth certificate, make sure he doesn't have a brother or something like that.
Indeed, and that definitely works in the guy's favor.
Oh, yeah. And I looked at him a few times. I don't know, it can't be the same guy who played the younger version with the baby at the beginning and this older version. But both the motherfuckers look just like Brad Dourif.
They really do.
Holy shit.
Yeah, the first guy looked like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Brad Dourif.
Or Legion, or Exorcist 3.
Exorcist 3.
Yeah. I actually just watched Tales from the Crypt with him and Bill Paxton last night.
Nice.
It was really good, actually. But anyway, so let's just run through a few other things real quick. We'll get to the killer theories. Let's do production value. I thought you mentioned the scenery taking place in Canada, I can imagine.
Well, no, I don't think it's supposed to. But it just, like, I could tell that it was made in Canada. I think it's supposed to be in the U.S., but it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. No, I was really impressed with, like, cinematography. Like, they took their time, it feels, with this one, and it feels cinematic, and it feels pretty damn good, I think.
I would say that the production values were very good. Personally, I didn't feel that they were... I wouldn't have qualified them as cinematic, but, you know,
they
solid.
had, like, some pretty good helicopter shots in there. I'm like, they planned their shit out.
But then again, if we're comparing them to classic, traditional slasher movies from the 80s...
And maybe that's what I'm doing, that we're all...
Right. It completely fits into that look and that vein.
I love it.
So...
I love it. That's what I'm saying. I feel like it's very classic. Okay, so I'm just going to get a few gripes out of the way since, you know, they're small things, because overall I really did like this. I liked this a lot. I could see really enjoying it. I don't like the killing for the 7 deadly sins. Feels pretentious.
It feels like something that I've seen a bunch of times. So yes. It's not very inspired.
No.
Which is why I use the word standard at the beginning.
Yeah, so that's one thing I don't like, and I'm just getting these things out of the way, and the executioner is fucking silly as shit.
Well,
is it just me?
It isn't just you. First of all, once again, just like the biblical thing, calling your serial killer the executioner just feels lazy.
Yep.
My wife and I, we watched these episodes, and we have started referring to the killer as Condom Head.
Jesus
because
Christ.
he looks like a reservoir tip condom.
What? If that's it could be intentional. Because and then they have all these undertones.
Honestly, not just the reservoir tip condom at the top, but the fact that he or she is wearing an ankle length, androgynous dress.
Yep.
It's just, it's very prophylactic.
I don't know,
in its profile.
These are the things
it's that prophylactic.
But that's the thing, is like, these are a few big, broad stroke things, which does scare me that it's overall whatever is going to be something that I don't like, but I like everything else about it. Everything else.
And I can nitpick.
But I didn't like the Red Devil. That is my give and take. I thought the Red Devil was silly, and he was supposed to be silly.
Right.
And I eventually think the Red Devil is awesome.
Yeah,
but
everything is what you make of it.
He's gonna, did you laugh when he had his scenes?
Who?
The Executioner.
No, I didn't laugh.
I laughed when he ran after her in the street. He ran like Michael Cera in Superbad. And I was like, was that intentional? And then when he drags the ginger kid through the street, that had to have been intentional. But yeah, when he would show up, he was just too silly looking. Like, he's not scary at all.
No, and that's sort of a stumbling block. But, yeah, there were things about it that I didn't like, but it was never boring.
Nope,
and
not at all.
My biggest problem with the show Scream wasn't that I had problems with the plot twists and, the acting was subpar. It was, there were too many episodes that were just filler and were boring.
Right.
Just don't bore me. This show didn't bore me.
Nope.
I was entertained throughout. Mm-hmm. I was entertained by stuff that I liked. I was entertained by griping about stuff that I didn't like.
Sure.
But even if I didn't like it, it still engaged me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the big thing. Although I'm bitching and moaning about, I didn't like this, I'm not saying that I would change it. That was just, the show did engage me.
This section is going to be called, let's get our gripes out of the way. Because, yeah, overall, I really did like this. Like, the acting, I think every character is likable. If maybe a little bland, but what are you going to do? They have a lot of bases to cover. Every one of them is likable. Even the ones who border on stereotype don't bother me.
Right.
Like, they're not annoying enough, and they're charming and subdued just enough. That one gay dude who, watches, Real House, he never tipped it over the line. One character I kind of don't like is that crazy lady, but that's a tough role to play. Like, that actress is trying, but she can't do it.
That's not a character that you can like.
No, I just mean the acting's not.
No, it's...
Other than that, the acting I thought was really good from everybody. Like, everyone is really charming. What's her name? She's fucking adorable. I love the main actress. And her husband is really charming and really... everyone's got good screen presence and shit. Her accent drops like a good 4 times, which I'm not holding against her. Because...
I noticed that while I was watching it.
Yeah, it was kind of like a fun counting game. But again, I'm nitpicking because I was having fun with it. You know what I mean? It's like even the rough stuff. We're slasher fans. We're used to forgiving some stupid, low-budget, crazy
that
shit.
ties into what I was just... Classic, traditional slasher movies, most of them aren't that good. But they're fun to watch.
Yeah.
That's what I'm looking for from this show, and so far, that's what the show's given me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I'm really liking it. I would definitely be watching more episodes. If one thing I wanted to point out specifically is when you said Scream Queens... we got a 2-part premiere. You were like, I'm glad they played the second episode because I wouldn't have watched if it was just the first. Is that how you feel about this one?
No, I actually thought the first episode was better than the second.
Just marginally, but yeah, I thought it was better.
Well, too. And for reasons I totally understand, you got to start off hot. You got to start off by spilling some blood, and they did. And by necessity, you can't stack up 5 or 6 bodies an episode. You can't do it in an ongoing series. If you do, then you're called 24. Yeah. It's better to pace yourself. So you start off hot, and then you slow down a little bit. And that's what they did. So the second episode just wasn't quite as hot for me, because not as much happened.
Yeah, but they did something that was pretty clever in the have your cake and eat it too, because they needed to get at least to the point in the middle of the second episode where she's like, it's a serial killer, and the one cop's like, he's only killed one person. They had to at least get there, but they wanted to pad their time. So they did something that's smart, but we'll see again how they deal with it, being that so many people survived attacks. You know what I mean? So we still got our exciting stalk sequences with payoffs. They just didn't result in death.
Well, something that I did like is I don't think anybody survived an attack. I think several people were intentionally not killed.
Sure, right. That's what I'm saying. And it can filter into
like
killer theories.
You thought Gay Dude 1 was gone for, but then he got saved and he got taken to the hospital, and then you realize, oh, he was never going to kill him. He just wanted to use an injured Gay Dude 1 to get him out of the way and set up Gay Dude 2, who he poisoned with cocaine. Small nitpick. Poison, not a great slasher killing implement. Would prefer to see something made out of metal, but, they get
what
one.
What are you going to do?
They as long as he's not a serial poisoner, I can deal with one. He did bleed out of his eyes. Bonus points for that.
That was actually, for poisoning, it wasn't bad. And then the ginger kid, his eyeball popped out. There's some pretty gory stuff in here. The one guy gets the machete. I was like, oh, that's the tone. But the tone isn't like that. Like, it isn't Jason sticking shit through people. And I believe it's the second episode where he cuts the hands off. I was like, that was pretty gnarly.
Yeah, cuts off that lady's hands and feet.
And then stabs the pregnant lady through the throat. That was pretty... Like, there's some gore.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah, and I like the tone. I like that it's bloody, it's gory, it's a little over the top, but there's still a harshness to it. Like, it works.
Yeah.
It's good.
And once again, it's great for pacing. They use it sparingly. This isn't a bloodbath show. Once or twice an episode, you're going to see some holy shit, that was gory moments.
Yeah.
That's not the tone of the whole thing. They've been using it just enough so far.
Okay. All right, so let's get into killer theories. So, I guess I'll just start pointing out some stuff. Tell me what you think of it. These are just little things that I noticed. Like, I keep track of people who are specifically given last names. Because, again, most people don't get first names, let alone last names. I have a list. Nobody's panned out yet, of course, so whatever. But the one chick who's crazy. Obviously, the little girl's going to play into something. We don't know how long ago she was taken or whatever. But she even, in her first scene, where you see her, she's like, she wanted to be a vet. She just loved animals. This is for nothing else than people who are interested in writing. That means everything to that character. That's automatic foreshadowing for that. I just thought that was something worth marking for later. Brad Dourif's, totally being telegraphed as the father of the girl.
Yes.
And that makes me think, are we getting a Ryan Murphy American Horror Story Hotel where it's like, it can't be that obvious? Or are they smart enough to be like, ha ha ha, nope, we're not actually going to do that.
Yeah, well, it's too early to see how they're going to play it. Obviously, what they did put into play is that anybody can be her dad. The only person that I'm convinced isn't her dad is the person that she thinks is her dad. Right. You know, the guy that was killed, at the beginning.
Yeah, pretty much.
You know, there were a box of videotapes where her mom was getting all around town with all sorts of... So anybody's in the mix.
And anybody can be brother or sister, too.
Sure.
Wah, wah, wah. Okay, we're going to get Scream again. This is one thing that I thought was funny. Again, I wrote it as I was watching it. They kept showing the bridge. Now, I was like, either that's them being kind of like artsy and like bridges symbolize transition, whatever. But then in the preview for the next episode, it shows somebody pushing like a cinder block off the bridge. I'm like, I knew it!
Yeah.
So the director's smart enough, he's putting visual cues to things that are important. That bridge, every transition was that fucking bridge. I was like, I got you. Peter McBride porno that ended up being The Lady Next Door. The next tape said Marjorie something on it. Marjorie was the one who walked up to the police detective and was smoking and then was like sucking the dude's dick and they
Right.
So she's getting set up to be like killed next or whatever, I assume. Which means the dad was also around fucking people. Which means that...
It only makes sense.
Yeah. So anyway, that was something that they put there. And yeah, I totally already have a killer theory. Now, here's the thing, is I don't trust myself anymore.
Uh-huh.
I don't. Now, although I got one of the killers in Scream right, and I had laid all the breadcrumbs for myself for the other one, but I mean, I kind of did with everybody. So I don't win Scream. And I was way the fuck off on Scream Queen. So I don't trust myself anymore. However, this just seems like a personal thing for me that I always either want it to be or always think it's going to be the main character. And I don't know, man. There's a lot of stuff that points to main character being the killer.
Oh, really? Cera?
Yeah. Yeah. Like a lot of stuff.
Of course, the most obvious thing being she's the daughter of a killer and her father is giving her counsel on how to embrace her inner nature.
Yeah.
And reconcile her. I mean, if they're going that route, it has to be two different personalities, right? Because why would she follow her own clues via GPS?
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, once I say it like that, two personalities playing against each other.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not even talking about the broader stuff because they lay that for everybody. I watch the little stuff. Mm-hmm. You know how they try and trick you. When she gets attacked by the killer the first time, every time she gets attacked, she's alone.
Mm-hmm. That's
every time someone's attacked,
anytime almost anybody is attacked, they're alone though.
Yes, but specifically when she gets attacked in the street, the teenage boys and her husband don't ever see the killer.
That's right. And
then if you watch in the episode, she goes off to do her thing whenever the killer's around. That's pretty standard. But let's see. The kids didn't notice him in the street, and they very well set up that the kids were there. And why didn't Dillon be like, why didn't the kids be like, why are you beating me up? What did we supposedly do? You dressed up as the executioner. That is the exchange that would have happened if they weren't trying to like hide that from us, that they didn't actually see it happen. But anyway, what is it? Who's Dillon? Fuck.
Dillon is the boyfriend. Is the main character's boyfriend.
Yeah. Okay. So that
or
was
husband.
That thing. When the lady next door is killed, she's at home watching a movie where somebody's getting stabbed. Mm-hmm. And then when she walks out, she leaves her front door. Like, there's just all these like visual cues. Like, she goes up to the door and he's like right behind it and unlocks the door and like leads the way, but doesn't ever like directly like, open doors for her. He just unlocks the doors and she has to walk through. Blah, 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 blah. And then specifically, there's something in episode 2 where they're like, where'd you get this package? It doesn't have any postage. Oh, the one crazy lady must have brought it. We know she didn't bring it, so where did the package come from? She sent it to herself. Because nobody else was ever around to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And she would have the finger. Plus, she went up into the house, and no one, like, is questioning, like, why she was there. You know what I mean? Like that. And she's just like, oh, it was the executioner who did it. And people, like, don't believe her, but also don't think she was the one who killed. Like, that has never come up. That the cops are like, well, you're saying it's the executioner. We don't think it's him. No one is like, you fucking killed her. Because that would, whatever the game too quick. And then when the gay guy is getting attacked, she is specifically, like, painting a picture of the executioner.
Yep, that's true.
As he's getting attacked. And then she's at the party. And again, we're getting already into specifics. When the one guy's dying, he looks at her and, like, tries to say something, and then his back spasms and he dies. But she's in proximity to I watched him twice. She's in proximity to everybody. There are quite a few characters who are. But she's in proximity every time she's in contact with the killer. It can be explained. And there's tons of cute little shit.
Yeah.
Like that throughout it.
Yeah, you make some good points. I'll give my killer theory pick and my rationale. My killer theory pick is Officer Chenery, or his name is Cam Henry, but he's always wearing his name tag and it says C. Henry, so I just think of him as Chenery. He's the son of the priest who was cut by the attacker, by the executioner in the beginning, and my rationale for picking him is just gut instinct. You know,
nice.
He's close. He's part of the investigation. He's got a historical connection. His dad was there. His dad's religious. There's the religious thing. All of this means fuck all anyway. I didn't know that there was, like, episode 4 is going to be a game changer, but we're 25%. Well,
no, the halfway mark.
Right. But I mean, we're 25% of the way through this season, and we've got a bunch of twists and turns to come. So it's sort of pin the tail on the donkey right now. But my gut says that Cam Henry definitely has something to do with it.
Yeah. Well, and he also makes sense for like classic slasher reasoning that could definitely end up panning out, which is that he's the approximate age to have been the bastard child who ends up being your secret brother.
Right.
Like, he fits a lot of, like, if it goes the Scream TV show, fucking soap opera route, or if they try and get psychological, it'll go my route. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And with the 7 Deadly Sins, they take their writing, they think their writing, and the writing is good. I have no problem with the writing. But the overall broad strokes of the writing are so clever, and so I think they'll go Shutter Island.
And this is, I'm not using this as a knock. I'm just using this as a very recent illustration of what we're talking about. Is American Horror Story Hotel. There was a 7 Deadly Sins killer.
Oh God!
Who ended up being the main character, only he didn't know that he was a killer the whole time. So,
which by the way, if you guys aren't familiar with our stuff, we started watching that and both were like, we can't do this.
Right. And we both made that call, like, in the first episode.
We made fun of it. We were like, oh, it's too bad he has such a sweet relationship with his daughter when we find out that he's really the killer at the end.
Right.
Like, dude, serious? Wow. So, anyway, but whatever, we'll see. So, overall rating for 2-part premiere.
Overall rating, and you know what? I've listening to my old reviews. I tend to be generous on an episode by episode basis, and then when it's all wrapped up, I'll go back and be a little more critical.
Sure.
But I'll go a 7 out of 10 for the first 2.
Yeah.
It was fun. It was entertaining. It was engaging. I liked it.
Yeah. I just hate when we always fucking agree on. But yeah, I would give it a 7.2 just because I want someone really to go from there.
Yeah.
And as much as, I mean, I really liked it, but it was still a lot of setup, and it was a lot of, like, time will tell. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, but all the setups were good, and this is strong stuff. Nothing exceptional just yet.
Right.
But it could end up being quite exceptional if they play the Brad Dourif, Hannibal Lecter thing out.
Yeah. So if you're the type of person that you see a commercial for a show called Slasher about a serial killer that chops people up and you think you would like it, you probably will.
Yeah.
If it's not your cup of tea, disregard our review. This is not like mind-warping shit that's going to get you into horror. But if you like slashers, and a lot of us do, you owe it to yourself to check this show out.
Yep, absolutely. And we will be back weekly with more reviews, killer theories, that kind of thing. We'll probably be doing them separately just because of workload and editing them together. But we will be back. Let us know what you think below. Feel free to comment your killer theory, episode by episode. Pick one person per episode. And we will see you next week here on Fright Flicks. Later on, guys.
Super long, dude.